So viewers, today we are joined in by Tilak Devasher, who is the member of National Security Advisory Board and also an author on Pakistan. He has been a keen follower on Pakistan. Hello sir, very welcome to ETV Bharat.
Thank you
Of
very
course,
much.
my first question is, given the political turmoil in Pakistan, what we see in the next few weeks, what we expect from this?
You see, this has been a major turning point, I think, in Pakistan. The arrest of Imran Khan, uh, this is an inflection point. The kind of protests that we are seeing in Pakistan today, because after the arrest since yesterday, and for the first time, I think the Pakistan army has been come face to face with the citizens of Pakistan. They have attacked the co-commander's house, they have attacked the general headquarters, and looting and burning and a lot of violence against the army institutions and government institutions. So I think uh, whether they expected this or whether they anticipated that this is going to happen, but the fact was that it has happened, and the scenes, the pictures and the images that have come out from Pakistan are pretty, amazing. I don't think so they've happened before. So I think the next couple of days and if not weeks are going to be a lot of turmoil till the situation sort of clarifies, till the army and the authorities get a grip back on the situation, till the crowds sort of settle down, and there is some news about the future for Imran Khan. There were some reports that the National Accountability Bureau has sort of 14 days remand. Now the news are coming in that he has been also indicted in the Toshakhana case. He'll probably get another sentence in Toshakhana. So all these cases, when they come to fruition and there's some clarity, I think then only will the situation subside. But to answer your question, I think Pakistan is in for a period of turmoil because of these arrests.
Because we have seen, from last year of when Imran Khan was removed from his position. Since then, we have seen the kind of demonstration and the kind of protest because of his popularity. Of course, a cricketer turned politicians ruling Pakistan for these many years, and you have been a keen follower on Pakistan. How do you see this entire situation? What can we expect, when it comes to the political future of this particular politician?
So, last year he was removed democratically. He was removed through a vote of no confidence, which is a purely democratic thing. But he is such a person that he didn't accept that he could be removed. He has such a highly inflated opinion of himself that he could be removed. So he used this conspiracy theory. First, he talked about the American conspiracy, that famous letter that he waved. Then he talked about the
Can you
army.
just give us a little brief about the American conspiracy that we
Yeah,
have?
so he claimed that the Assistant Secretary of State in the US State Department had threatened that if Imran Khan is not removed,
Right.
the US relations with Pakistan will go downhill. Actually, it was nothing of that. There was no threat. 5 or 6 months later, Imran Khan said, no, no, no. He made a total U turn and said there was no such American conspiracy. But the army, the former army chief, General Bajwa, sought to remove him from power. So, he's been keep changing his tactic. But the narrative that he has sold, first the American narrative, so he tapped into a deep-seated anti-American feeling in Pakistan. So it sold, so it became very popular. Then he sold the deep-seated anti-establishment feeling amongst the people against the army. He called the army chief Mir Jafar and Mir Sadak, referring back to history. So that again, the people lapped it up. So, it added on to his popularity. And he's the kind of man who, even if he tells a lie, the people think that is true. He has this kind of cult following, People think that whatever he's saying is gospel truth. And he has the right to say it. And so much so that he now today believes that he's above the law. For example, when he goes for court appearances, goes with a huge number of people, huge crowd. If the hearing is at 11 o'clock, he comes in at 6 o'clock, keeps the judges waiting for him. So he thinks that he's above the state, above the law. So that is the reason why, and because of his popularity, therefore, what is the protests that you're having today? But having been indicted in these two cases, this is one, the Al Qaeda trust in which he was being arrested, and the Toshakhana case, then he will possibly get disqualified to contest elections in the manner that Nawaz Sharif was disqualified. Nawaz Sharif is disqualified from contesting elections for life. For a case, a very silly case that he didn't take the salary from his son. You know, And this is a far more serious case. It's quite likely that he will get disqualified. So that may lead to greater turmoil, or it may totally subside. So we'll just have to wait and see which way, how the situation
So do
develops.
we see any revival of this of him as a politician in near future, of course?
See, if he's disqualified, his value as a politician is contesting elections, becoming the leader, and then becoming the prime minister,
Right.
parliamentary politics. If you are disqualified from contesting elections, then you can be the guide of the party, you can be a father figure kind of a thing. But in the subcontinent, unless satta hai, if you don't have power, how many people are going to follow you or how many people are going to listen to you? You will not be able to actively participate and take decisions, which is what he wants. And he's much too ambitious and he has too inflated an ego to sit on the sidelines. So they will not accept, they will have agitation. One thing that is going in his favor is that the superior judiciary, the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice and few of his judges, they are all for him. So they are bending the judgments, setting up benches that are favoring him. But the Chief Justice retires in September. So if the government holds on till September, then have their own Chief Justice, at least the judiciary, there will be a level playing field.
Right. Now, of course, coming to, we have seen last week, Jai Shankar has snubbed Bilawal Bhutto, of course, and Bhutto has also come up with a threatening statement when it comes to hosting G20 in Srinagar. And this has been a regular, it has been on trend that, Pakistan raking up Kashmir issue at different multilateral forums, and of course, India hitting back. So, when we talk about India-Pakistan ties, right at this situation when the situation is changing, and of course now the turmoil in Pakistan. Where do you see the India-Pakistan ties stand? And of course, do we expect a thaw between the two countries by any chance?
First, to take up the second part of your question, I think the government in Pakistan will be so caught up in internal domestic issues, they will not want to spend any political capital on Indo-Pak relations. And second, the line that Bilawal Bhutto has taken, which what Imran Khan had also laid down, that unless and until India reverses the changes of 5th August 2019, that means restores Article 370, there can be no dialogue. So that is not going to happen in India. Indian government is not going to go back on Article 370. So that closes the door for any kind of dialogue. Even if you want to, if the other side doesn't want to talk to you, what are you going to do? And they have pushed themselves in a corner, leaving no room for diplomats to find some space and talk about. So I think for the moment at least, Indo-Pak relations are in deep freeze, in cold storage. Now coming to Bilawal Bhutto, you see the mask dropped. During the whole SCO, his address and in the interviews that he gave, he talked about how Pakistan was was against terrorism for their own sake. In all kinds of things he mentioned, my mother was a victim of terrorism and all that. But yet he threatens India that at that time we will show you or give you a lesson that you will never forget. This is an open terror threat. So what's he talking about? He really was threatening India with terror, and the mask had dropped. Second, he says his mother was a victim of terrorism. Actually, she was not. She and at that time, if you remember, they accused Musharraf as being responsible. So she was a victim of an assassination. She was assassinated. She was not a victim of terrorism, unless he's now saying that they have forgiven Musharraf. And the third thing about his visit, if you notice, he said the PPP has always wanted good relations with India. He's not the foreign minister of the PPP. He's the foreign minister of Pakistan. So I think, he's probably very young, immature. I don't know what kind of briefing he was given, not given. But on the other hand, Dr. Jaishankar, rebutted each and every of his points very effectively.
Yeah.
So, that's where
So we have seen many countries, of course, issuing advisory for their citizens in Pakistan. Also, you have seen US's comment recently. So when we talk about the democracy in Pakistan, do we see any kind of what do you exactly foresee when it comes to this situation right now?
they are in a very difficult situation. You see, this is what from yesterday, so this is going to take up a lot of time.
Yeah.
The protests, the violence, and the army being on the back foot. Then you have, the economic crisis, a very severe economic crisis. You saw people getting killed in stampedes for looking for atta. They don't have enough money to pay their foreign debts. They have to pay something like $3.7 billion by June. And even though China has rolled over some their loans and given some more deposits in Saudi Arabia, but unless the IMF comes in, and the IMF is not, really stringing them along.
Yeah.
So there's an economic crisis. There is a severe security crisis with the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan very active in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, in Balochistan, even in Punjab, even in the Islamabad in the capital. After the victory of the Taliban, they've got rejuvenated. So there is a security crisis. There's a judicial crisis where there's a confrontation between the judiciary and the legislature. For example, the Supreme Court under the Chief Justice gave a ruling that a law which had not even been enacted, he gave a stay order to that. This is a preemptive jurisdiction which is not there in the Constitution at all. Then he said he wants to see the record of the National Assembly debates. And the National Assembly said, what nonsense. We were not going to, and they even threatened that they will form a committee of the whole House and summon the Chief Justice to bring the records of the discussions in the Supreme Court. So there is a confrontation between institutions, the judiciary and the legislature, the judiciary and the cabinet. That kind of problem is there. Then there is this political crisis, of course. Yeah. They can't even sit in the same room and talk to each other. A lot of polarization. Right. So given the fact that Pakistan is so caught up in different issues, I don't think so. Stability is going to be there in the next months or the next year or so. They will continue to be on the ventilator economically, begging for money here, 1 billion there, 1 billion there, and just, unless you do structural changes which require rescheduling of debt or writing off of debt, they are in for a very difficult situation.
Right. Of course, we talk about the repercussions it could have, it could have geopolitically, of course, when it comes to Pakistan's ties with China or US or any countries for that matter. What do you see basically? How do you...
You see, recently the Chinese foreign minister was in Pakistan after Goa. They had a trilateral meeting with Afghanistan. And very surprisingly, he admonished the Pakistan political class for not behaving in a cohesive manner. If you saw that speech of his, he really admonished them and openly. So this was something very strange. I mean, even the Chinese are coming to the end of their patience. But please get your act together. Let's go ahead with CPEC because CPEC cannot move ahead if there is so much of infighting amongst all of you. So that's as far as China is concerned. As far as the US is concerned, I think the US is... Pakistan's importance was because of Afghanistan. Because of the war on terror and the Glocks, the ground lines of communication passed through Pakistan. It was important in that respect. Now, the US is looking at Afghanistan in the rear view mirror. They're not really... So the only interest they have in Pakistan are the nuclear weapons and on terrorism. So I don't think that the US is paying too much of intense importance to Pakistan also. Therefore, you find the IMF, for example, is really squeezing them a lot. So their relations, the world wants to move on. The world is not interested in terrorism anymore. The world is not interested in a basket case who goes around begging all the time. I mean, stand on your own feet. You're a 75-year-old country. You should have some measure of governance. So I think people are quite fed up of Pakistan.
So, of course, keeping aside all the indifferences between India and Pakistan, do you see that India is going to come up with something like an approach when it comes to the turmoil in Pakistan? Do you think that India is going to speak on this?
No, I don't think so. I think first of all, there's nothing that India can do. There's nothing that we can do to either to help. And second, if they don't even want to talk to us, why should we? Why should we? As Napoleon, I think, said, when a person is going down, enemy is going down, why should you interfere? Let him dig his own grave, as it were. So there's nothing that India is going to do or India can do or India will do.
Thank you so much for joining us, sir. And it was a pleasure that you could just join us on this particular situation and speak on Pakistan particularly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.